Top stories in our news today. Finnish ambassador to Zambia, Timo Konen, has described as alarming revelations contained in the Financial Intelligence Center report. International trade consultant Trevor Simumba says Zambia's actual Chinese debt stands at close to $5 billion and not $2 billion as it is indicated by the government. And the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, has set July 26th as the date for holding the Lusaka mayoral elections and council chairpersons elections in 6 districts. Welcome to the news. Finnish ambassador to Zambia, Timo Konen, says revelations contained in the 2017 Financial Intelligence Center report are alarming. Mr. Konen has since commended the FIC for bringing to light the misuse of public resources, tax evasion and corruption. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Konen says from a good governance point of view, it is less important to think about the communication structures in which the FIC revelations were made. He says it is important that the public discourse is centered on the facts and evidence that has been discovered and not communication channels the FIC should have used. He states that if there is evidence of misuse of public funds or tax evasions, these crimes need to be followed up regardless of the process of how they were made public. Mr. Konen states that law enforcement agencies have an obligation and responsibility to follow up the revelations contained in the FIC report. His comment follows attacks on the FIC following the publication of the report of its investigations.
The scale of the misuse of public resources and tax evasion and corruption is quite alarming when you see what they have mentioned in their report. So I think, from a good governance point of view, I think it's less important to think about what the process was, how this came about and what are the reporting structures. But if there is the evidence there for the misuse of funding, then obviously that would need to be followed up, regardless of how the processes exactly went. So I think the work that the Financial Intelligence Center is doing is very important.
And Green Party President Peter Sinkamba has come to the defense of the Financial Intelligence Center for making public its 2017 report, which has revealed that Zambia lost 4.5 billion kwacha through financial crimes. Mr. Sinkamba says it is unfortunate that FIC Director General Mary Schumer has come under attack from some stakeholders who feel she erred by making the report public. He says that the center has done nothing wrong by making public their findings, adding that this is not the first time such a report has been made public by the center. He has since called on the Anti-Money Laundering Investigations Unit under the Drug Enforcement Commission (DEC) to investigate cases cited in the FIC report. Mr. Sinkamba says that those who will be found wanting should face the wrath of the law.
We always have cases where, for example, the police will announce through their spokesperson to indicate that person A has committed rape in this particular area and the police is investigating. There is nothing wrong for the police to do that. Or they'll tell us there's an individual who has committed defilement somewhere and they are pursuing that individual. There is nothing wrong with that. And we have heard the Anti-Corruption Commission picking up individuals and announcing that they are investigating or they have invited those people for interviews. There is nothing wrong with that. And also for the financial intelligence services to indicate that they've noted irregular movements of money in various banks. There is nothing wrong with that. So we do not think that Madam Schumer should apologize at all to anyone. She has performed, I think, her work diligently. We know that she is under siege.
International trade consultant Trevor Simumba says his findings have established that Zambia's Chinese debt stands at close to $5 billion and not the $2 billion figure given by the government. Mr. Simumba disclosed this during the launch of the study on Zambia's Chinese debt by the Center for Trade, Policy and Development, CTPD, in Lusaka. He has since urged the government to immediately renegotiate its debt with China. Mr. Simumba has also called for greater transparency with regards to the terms and structure of Chinese loans to Zambia. He has further called for debt oversight systems to be strengthened. More in the following report.
Zambia's debt burden is clearly rising, but what is perhaps most worrying to some stakeholders is the servicing this debt is increasingly unsustainable. The World Bank and IMF debt sustainability analysis puts Zambia at a high risk of debt distress and increasing fiscal deficits, yet negotiations for an IMF bailout package have recently been suspended. The external debt stock has increased from $6.95 billion at the end of 2016 to $8.74 billion by December 2017, and domestic debt excluding arrears has risen from $3.47 billion to $4.6 billion over the same period. It is against this background that the Center for Trade Policy and Development has been working around in trying to establish the exact Chinese debt and give possible recommendations to the Zambian government. The center hosted a breakfast meeting in Lusaka with key institutions in trying to help the nation overcome the perceived debt distress. International trade consultant Trevor Simumba took advantage of the podium to advise the Zambian government to immediately negotiate its debt owed to China.
My report concludes that Zambia is at somewhat of a cliff edge. The same metaphor you used. We're on a cliff edge in terms of the sustainability of its debt burden. So we make three key recommendations. Number one, Chinese debt must be renegotiated. And we can help government in this process in terms of some of the strategies, some of the ways we can help. You remember Jubilee 2000, a consortium of civil society helped the government very much during the HIPIC period. Okay? There is need for greater transparency. The terms and the structure of Chinese loans to Zambia and the details about how they are secured must be transparent. This thing of hiding information is not helping anyone. It's not helping anyone.
Speaking at the same event, Transparency International Zambia TIZ Executive Director Wesley Chivamba said there is need for the Zambian government to be open and transparent in the acquisition of these loans.
But also, we don't know, how do we verify this? Were these funds actually used to upgrade the railway system? Do we have any evidence to that effect? Because then we are going to look at economic returns of this debt. But if we don't have that information, then we have a problem. The terms and conditions of the agreements. Trevor was giving us an example where there is this PPP, and 85%, okay, we're going to give you this money. 15%, you go and borrow it again. So essentially, the people that have financed the 85% of that loan, which will be maybe Exim Bank of China, you go and borrow again the 15% from them, they have essentially financed 100% of the project.
Shebo Narishebo is ZIPA research fellow who notes that there has been talk of restructuring Chinese loans, further stating that 30% of stated external debt is held by China.
To break down this issue of debt,
Yes.
because even right now, in terms of scope, people do not really even know what they're talking about with regard to what is debt, because government reports public debt and publicly guaranteed debt. Those are two different things. So they call it PPG, public and publicly guaranteed debt. So when a lot of people are talking, saying government has all these wrong figures, maybe they're looking at the whole package of public and public guaranteed debt, when government is probably just reporting the central government debt that's only related to central government.
For KTV News, Albert Mpezeni, Lusaka.
Thank you so much, Albert, for that report. The Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, CSPR, says that the decision by the government to revert some farmers under the e-voucher system to the Conventional Farmers Input Support Program, FISP, will bring about corruption and ghost farmers. CSPR Executive Director Patrick Nshindano says that the reason why the government came up with the electronic e-voucher system was to get rid of ghost farmers, corruption, reduce the cost of delivery of farming inputs, among others. Mr. Nshindano says that the decision to revert back is to the conventional FISP is retrogressive. He says government should also realize that some of the officials frustrated the program because the loopholes that were used to steal public funds under the FISP were sealed following the introduction of the e-voucher system. Mr. Shindano tells QTV News that the officials who took advantage of the loopholes in the FISP must be celebrating because they once again have a chance to engage in corrupt activities through creation of ghost farmers.
First and foremost, if you look at the shift towards the e-voucher, was basically to tackle the challenges that were under the old system, which included aspects to do with wrong targeting mechanism, issues to do with the lack of diversification on the part of the farmers, but it was also marred with very high cost structure and corruption because of the delivery and the high involvement of government in the procurement and distribution of inputs, but also the lack of efficiency in the distribution system. We cannot be going back to tackle the problems that we're trying to solve with another system. What we should be doing is looking at what is it that we can do to enhance the e-voucher system. E-voucher system has proven worldwide where it has been implemented to be efficient, both in terms of bringing about reduction in cost structure of implementing such a subsidy program, but also in promoting diversification, which we've been singing about as a country. First,
the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, has set Thursday, 26th July 2018 as the date for holding mayoral elections in Lusaka and council chairpersons elections in Chasefo, Chipangali, Kasenengwa, Lumezi, Lusangazi, and Chifunabuli districts. The commission will on the same date hold by-elections in Chachacha, Luambazi, Kangwenya, Kanongesha, Kanyama, and Luma wards. The mayoral and council chairpersons elections have been necessitated following the death of Lusaka Mayor Wilson Kalumba and the declaration of Chasefo, Chipangali, Kasenengwa, Lumezi, and Lusangazi as and Chifunabuli as a district by President Edgar Lungu. The by-elections in the 6 wards have been necessitated by resignations and deaths of councillors. The Commission has since advised aspiring candidates in the mayoral and council chairpersons elections to lodge completed and attested statutory declarations and nomination papers subscribed before a magistrate, local court magistrate, head of a government primary or secondary school, principal of a college, election commission of oath, election officer or returning officer on Tuesday, 26th June 2018 between 09 hours and 15 hours. This is contained in a statement issued by ECZ Public Relations Manager Margaret Chimanse. National Guidance and Religious Affairs Minister Reverend Godfrida Sumaili says that the current rate at which youths are abusing drugs and alcohol, families are breaking down, and girls are falling pregnant while at school is alarming. Reverend Sumaili says there is need for concerted efforts from various stakeholders in restoring morality levels among us youths in the country, especially that Zambia is a Christian nation. In a speech read on her behalf by Ministry's Assistant Director for National Guidance, Godfrey Kauma, during the official opening of the Great North Road Academy Rehabilitation Center in Lusaka, Reverend Sumaili says that the emergency of gangs, school sex parties, and unprecedented drug and alcohol abuse by youths demonstrate the moral degradation in the country. She has since commended the Great North Road Academy for its initiative to open a rehabilitation center which will help in rehabilitating youths who are abusing alcohol and drugs and other related vices.
The value of this initiative is beyond measure, and that is why my ministry is here to demonstrate our endorsement and support to this noble cause. It is blowing in the wind that in the recent past, our nation has seen a spate of events that demonstrate the moral degradation in the country. We have heard the emergence of gangs such as the Dakota Boys and the like. Secondary school street parties, like last year, we had the issues of sex party. Unprecedented drug and alcohol abuse have become all too common within the borders of our country. Therefore, the opening of the Great North Road Academy Rehab Center could not have come at a better time than this. We are at a time in our nation's life where we need to put our heads together to restore our country's position as an epitome of morality. And we have waited in the national values, we have this issue of morality and ethics. Ours is a Christian nation. As such, we need to work at ways in which we maintain that status, and this initiative is a move in that direction.
And speaking earlier, Great North Road Academy Director Dr. Rosie Asiatombo has disclosed that on average, not less than 20 pupils are expelled on each school day around the country due to substance abuse. Dr. Siatombo further states that majority of people serving sentences in prisons are as a result of drug and alcohol-related issues. He says that the center has assembled a team of experts drawn from a diverse professional background, among them psychologists, psychosocial therapists, the clergy, and medical practitioners, to help rehabilitate youths who have fallen prone to substance abuse and related viruses.
Over the years, I have personally built a brand as a motivational speaker and as an expert in the area of exams, that is exams made easy. This line of work has seen me interact with learners, a number of learners around the country, and also parents. And in the most recent past, I have personally sat down with teenagers and youths that have been victims of drugs and alcohol abuse, helping them get their lives back from the negating impact of these vices. The people I have helped saw firsthand the benefits of my work, and their lives became evidence of this work to others. This saw me handle more cases, and with time, the number of referrals has continued growing. This growth is partly what inspired this center, the knowledge that we could help more people on a large scale. The birth of this rehab center is by no means not an accident or an unseen circumstance. This initiative was well thought and designed specifically to meet the needs of the people.
And Zambia Correctional Service Senior Assistant Commissioner George Skaonga has expressed optimism that the center will also help rehabilitate youths who once served sentences in correctional facilities as a result of substance abuse.
Priska, which is a good partner as well. We have many others that we work hand in hand. Social workers in our government ministries. We ensure that they are trained and they are become responsible citizens as they go out to their family members. We may have challenges in completely changing the behavior and character of these young offenders, but we try as much as possible to ensure that they become responsible people when they go to the communities. I thought that I should share this information to the people around here, so that I invite even the director to work with us, because we also have young offenders who are sometimes on drugs, and we may need your help to also rehabilitate these young offenders, because I'm told you do a total rehabilitation on those that are on drugs, those that are falling out of school and the like.
The Zambia Public Procurement Authority, ZPPA, says that the measures put in place to curb malpractices in public procurement have begun yielding positive results. ZPPA Director General Dennis Chisenda has cited the Electronic Government Procurement, EGP, as one of the measures being used to improve efficiency and standardize procurement processes. Mr. Chisenda has told QTV News that the authority appeals to bidders and procurement entities to acquaint themselves with the EGP now that its piloting stage has been completed. He says that the electronic government procurement is a smart and ultimate way to procure, as it will select bidders only on merit without favoring any of them. Mr. Chisenda says where the system is already in use, there is proof that it is effective and that complaints of favoritism have never arisen.
As you may be aware, I think we are piloting and extending, I think, the use of the e-government procurement electronic system. That is meant, I think, to standardize the processes and the procedures so that these are not different from one institution to the other. So that will help greatly in terms of addressing some of the challenges and the complaints that I think we've received from a number of bidders. And that's why we appeal for the bidders, the procuring entities, to make sure that they learn how to use the e-government procurement, because it's the ultimate way or the smart way to procure. This is going to resolve a number of challenges once I think it's used by the PEs and the bidders, because the system cannot select any bidder not on merit. So to look at the terms of requirement and to process, and this is not an individual is going to do that, it's the system. So accusing that this system favor this particular bidder or not is not going to be there.
After the aftermath of the Chilanga parliamentary by-elections, Alliance for Democracy and Development ADD President Charles Milupi says that the opposition in the country should realize that they cannot expect to win an election based on the unpopularity of the ruling party. Mr. Milupi says that the opposition should realize that elections are not a contest about who is less popular and who is more popular. He has noted that the opposition has focused on talking about the wrong things that the Patriotic Front is doing, but are not telling the people what they would do once in government. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Milupi has since advised the opposition to focus more on articulating things they would do if elected into power. Mr. Milupi has further advised the opposition to avoid generalities in their campaigns if they want to convince the electorates to give them a vote. He adds that it is also important for the opposition to take into consideration the aspect of morality when choosing which candidate to feud during by-elections. Mr. Milupi says that the defeat of the UPND in the Chilanga by-election is an example of how a party can lose an election if it ignores issues of morality around its candidate.
I am very greatly surprised at the insensitivity of the opposition in the way they went into Chilanga. I've talked to many people who had said that they would not have voted for the opposition, even if they were voters in Chilanga. They would not have campaigned, even if they were in Chilanga, on account of very, very questionable adoption process in the main opposition. The morality of the issues around the candidature, I think the party ignored those morality issues at their own peril. And for that, we disadvantaged the Zambian people. I think the Zambian people deserve much better leadership than what we are displaying at the moment. We have to understand what the people need, how we are going to deliver it, how we are going to deliver this country from the misgovernance that we are seeing. The country is on the wrong path.
The Network for Young People Against Violence, NEPAV, has proposed the enactment of a law that will deal with political violence in the country. Executive Director Moses Kalonde says such a law should bar political parties that engage in violence during elections from contesting in future elections. Mr. Kalonde tells QTV News that his organization will soon be writing to Parliament to urge members of Parliament to consider modalities of how this law can be crafted. He says coming up with a law against political violence is the only way his organization believes violence will be stopped once and for all.
We will take it further now. We will soon be writing to Parliament in the next session so that a law can be enacted so that political parties whose cadres are engaging themselves in political violence with impunity, they must be banned. They must be stopped. They must not be allowed to participate in the future elections. We feel strongly that by so doing, that is the only way that political party leaders will be able to sensitize or will be able to caution their followers, their cadres, to stay away or to refrain from these violent activities.
The Barisan National Freedom Alliance, BNFA, has urged President Edgar Lungu to sign submissions by the International Court of Arbitration relating to the Barotserand Agreement. BNFA trustee William Harrington has expressed concern that the president has not given the documents any attention from the time they were laid on his desk some years back. Mr. Harrington says that the reason why the matter was taken to the International Court of Arbitration is because Zambia's judicial system has failed to deal with the matter expeditiously. He has since urged the head of state to honor the documents before him. Meanwhile, Mr. Harrington has held a government for releasing people in Mongu and some parts of the country who were incarcerated for various offenses such as unlawful assembly. Kenya's ambassador to Zambia, Sophie Kombe, says Kenya has ratified the Tripartite Free Trade Area TFTA agreement. The Tripartite Free Trade Agreement, which is anchored on three pillars, namely market integration, industrial development, and infrastructure development, brings together three regional economic communities, namely COMESA, the East Africa Community, and the Southern Africa Development Community, SADC. Speaking when she presented AFCTA documents to COMESA Secretary General Sindiso Ngwenya, Mrs. Kombe says that the implementation of the TFTA agreement will resolve the challenges with multiple memberships to regional economic communities. And COMESA Secretary General Sindiso Ngwenya has commended the Kenyan government for its decision to finally ratify the Tripartite Free Trade Area Agreement. Meanwhile, the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa and the International Organization for Immigration have signed an agreement on the implementation of the COMESA Small-Scale Cross-Border Trade Initiative under the 11th European Development Fund, EDF 11. COMESA Secretary General Sindiso Ngwenya explains that the program aims at increasing the formalization of informal cross-border trade and enhancing trade flows, leading to higher incomes for small-scale cross-border trades. And the International Organization for Migration Regional Director Charles Quinin has reaffirmed his organization's commitment to continue supporting capacity building to help balance the skills gap in the region by identifying countries that have excess and those that were deficient with a view of addressing such. Mr. Quinin has commended COMESA for its proactive efforts to promote the linkage between migration, inter- and inter-regional trade, and economic integration among its member states through various policies and programs. Still in local news, Sanlam Zambia has planted about 100 trees in Lusaka in commemoration of its 100 years anniversary and as a sign of its commitment to the future. Sanlam Chief Commercial Officer Fred Shimbi says all 21,000 staff members across the globe have received a young tree to plant as a reminder of how the company has remained true to its roots and its founding purposes of empowering people to live their best lives possible. Mr. Shimbi says his organization will continue supporting government's efforts in combating climate change and protecting natural resources for future generations. He has told journalists after the tree planting exercise that he is happy to see his organization contributing towards the Plant a Million initiative, which was relaunched by President Edgar Chagwa Lungu on 30th April 2018. Mr. Shimbi says it is everyone's responsibility to take care of the natural resources. In sports news, multi-choice Zambia has reiterated that all 64 World Cup games will be televised live and in high-definition HD on the DSTV and GoTV platforms. Multi-choice Zambia Managing Director Ngoza Matakala has told journalists in Lusaka that from 14th June to 15th July 2018, Multi-choice will deliver unparalleled viewing experience of the FIFA World Cup taking place in Russia in HD. She states that to stir up excitement for the World Cup, MultiChoice has introduced two pop-up channels, SuperSport 14 and the History Channel of Football. Matakala adds that GoTV Plus and Max customers have also been given an assortment of content, including great legacy footage of players, highlights, and documentaries.
We have 6 days to go. Very exciting. In typical SuperSport fashion, we are going to televise all the 64 games on both DSTV and GoTV. We are especially delighted to televise all the 64 games to our GoTV subscribers this year. To stir up excitement for the World Cup on your World of Champions, we introduced two pop-up channels, SuperSport 14 and the History of Football channel. Our GoTV Plus and Max customers have also been given an assortment of content, including great legacy footage of players, highlights, documentaries, FIFA films, classic matches, and interviews. I hope you have all been enjoying these pop-up channels as much as I have. From the 14th of June to 15th July, MultiChoice will deliver unparalleled viewing experience of the 2018 FIFA World Cup to DSTV and GoTV customers live and in HD. All 64 games will be available on all active DSTV as well as GoTV Max and GoTV Plus packages, while value customers will also have access to a significant number of matches. True to our promise, we are bringing Russia to you. Our customers can catch live TV on the go via DSTV Now and SuperSport apps to enjoy the games anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this is a clear demonstration that we deliver only the best to our valued customers. We have 6 days to go.
That's a wrap for today, but before we go, a recap of stories making headlines. Finnish ambassador to Zambia, Timo Konen, has described as alarming revelations contained in the Financial Intelligence Center report. International trade consultant Travis Mumba says Zambia's actual Chinese debt stands at about $5 billion and not the $2 billion as indicated by government. And the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, has set July 26 as the date for holding the Lusaka mayoral elections and council chairperson's elections in 6 districts. Wishing you a pleasant viewing.